The air tastes like ash and burning promethium, thick enough to choke on, thick enough to make you wonder if you've already died, and this is just the afterlife's slow reveal. Terra burns, and with it, every lie you've ever been told about glory, about honor, about the Emperor's divine protection. You stand in the shadow of the palace walls, and those walls are bleeding. Not metaphorically. Literally. The stone weeps something dark and oily, something that hisses when it touches the ground, and you realize with a clarity that cuts deeper than any blade that this is not a battle anymore. This is the end. The War Master's fleet blots out the stars, his legions hammer at the gates, and inside the throne room, behind kilometers of adamantium and desperation, the Emperor sits silent. Silent. Not watching. Not commanding. Just silent. The Astronomicon flickers. The warp screams. And you, standing in this moment, holding a lost rifle that feels like a toy against what's coming, you understand something the propaganda never taught you: gods can die. Empires can fall. And when they do, they take everyone with them. Before we descend into the depths of Terra's last days, if you're ready to witness the unraveling of the Imperium, the fracturing of hope, and the raw, unfiltered truth of mankind's final stand, then hit that like button right now. Share this with anyone who thinks they understand Warhammer 40k, because what you're about to experience will redefine everything you thought you knew. Subscribe and turn on notifications, because we're diving into the darkest corners of the siege, the stories the Imperium would rather you never heard, and I want you here for every single revelation. Drop a comment telling me which faction you think truly won the siege of Terra, because by the end of this, you might not have an answer anymore. And if you've ever wondered what it actually feels like to live through the Imperium's collapse, not from a Primarch's perspective, not from a Custodian's gilded viewpoint, but from the ground where blood and dirt mix into something unrecognizable, then stay with me. Because we're going there. Together. You've been standing in the same trench for 37 hours, and you can no longer feel your feet. Not numb from cold, because Terra's surface is burning, the ground itself radiating heat from the orbital bombardments that never stop, but numb from standing, from the way your boots have fused to the mixture of mud and blood and something else, something oily and raw that leaked from a servitor's corpse 3 meters to your left. The servitor is still there. Half buried. Its Vox grill clicks occasionally, random bursts of static that might be prayers or might be malfunction, and no one has the energy to care which. You are Private Melee Arcade, Astra Militarum, 804th Terran Defense Cohort, and that name means nothing anymore. You are a number in a ledger that is being erased line by line. The War Master's fleet fills the sky like a plague of locusts made from iron and hate, and every few minutes, another drop pod screams down, and another section of the wall gets a little weaker, and another 100 soldiers die trying to hold ground that was lost before they even arrived. The officer who gave you this position is dead. You watched him die 6 hours ago when a hellrake strafed the trench line, its autocannon rounds tearing through ceramite and flak armor like they were paper. He didn't even scream. Just came apart, a red mist where a man had been, and his orders died with him. But no one came to replace him. No one reassigned you. The Vox network is a nightmare of overlapping commands and contradictions, voices screaming coordinates that don't match any map you have, calling for support from units that were annihilated days ago. You tried to report in once, to ask for orders, and the only response you got was a burst of feedback so loud it made your ears bleed. You haven't tried again. So you stand in the trench, lost rifle in hand, and you wait. Waiting is all there is now. Waiting for the next wave. Waiting for the ammunition to run out. Waiting for the moment when the traitors break through and you have to decide if you're going to die fighting or die running. The horizon is not a horizon anymore. It is a wall of fire and smoke, punctuated by the silhouettes of titans, god machines walking through the inferno like they were born from it. You can hear them even over the constant roar of bombardment, the earth-shaking footfalls, the blare of war horns that sound like the warp itself is screaming. Once, you believed the titans were humanity's ultimate weapon, the Emperor's wrath made manifest. Now you know that the War Master has titans too, and his are worse, because they are not just machines anymore. They are alive in a way that makes your skin crawl, their armor writhing with faces that scream silently, their weapons weeping blood that ignites the air. You saw one 3 days ago, a Warlord class, its carapace painted in the colors of the Death Guard, and even from a kilometer away, you could smell it. rotten chemical fire and something sweet underneath, like fruit left to decay in the sun. It walked through an entire regiment without firing a shot. Just walked. And the men it passed fell down and did not get up, their bodies swelling and bursting and giving birth to things that should not exist. You have stopped thinking about victory. Victory is a word from another life, a concept that belongs to generals and primarchs and people who still believe the emperor is watching. You think instead about survival, but even that is too large, too ambitious. You think about the next minute, the next breath, the next time you blink without seeing the afterimage of someone dying burned into your retinas. The man next to you, you do not know his name. He arrived sometime during the last bombardment, crawled into the trench with half his face missing, replaced by a crude augmetic that looks like it was installed with a welding torch and a prayer. He has not spoken. He just holds his lost rifle and stares at the fire, and you think maybe he is dead already, just a corpse that hasn't realized it yet. You do not ask. Asking questions makes things real, and you are not ready for that. The sky flickers. Not lightning. Not explosions. The Astronomicon, the psychic beacon that guides ships through the warp, that holds the Imperium together across 1,000,000 worlds, it flickers. For just a second, the golden light that bathes Terra even through the smoke and the fire, it dims. And in that second, the temperature drops 10 degrees, your breath mists in the air, and you hear something. Not with your ears. With something deeper. A sound like a choir singing backwards, like a scream stretched across an eternity. Then it is gone. The light returns. The heat returns. But you are shaking, and you are not sure if you will ever stop. The soldier with the augmetic face turns to look at you, and you realize he was never dead. His remaining eye is wide, terrified, and his lips move, forming words you cannot hear. You lean closer, and he whispers, barely audible over the roar of war, "He's dying. The Emperor. He's dying." You do not have the strength to tell him he is wrong. You do not have the strength to tell him he is right. The Vox crackles. A voice cuts through the static, cold and mechanical, as Skitarii Rangers can't. All units, Tertius Wall, fall back to secondary positions. Repeat, fall back. Tertius Wall is lost. You look at the man with the augmetic. He looks back. Neither of you moves. Because there are no secondary positions. You check the map, the last time you had a map, and the lines behind you are just as thin, just as overrun. Falling back is not a strategy. It is a delay. You are trading meters for minutes, and soon there will be no meters left. You think about the palace, the Sanctum Imperialis, the golden throne room where the Emperor sits. You have never seen it. You were born in the underhive of a high city whose name you no longer remember, pressed into the Astra Militarum because you had 2 arms and could hold a gun, and you will die without ever seeing the thing you were dying for. That should bother you. It does not. Because you have realized, slowly, like frostbite creeping into your soul, that the Emperor is not a person. He is an idea. And ideas do not bleed. Ideas do not save you when the traitor Astartes come over the trench wall with chains words that sing hymns to gods whose names hurt to think. You hear them before you see them. The traitor Astartes. The 8th Legion, the Night Lords, because of course it would be them. They do not charge. They do not need to. They walk, slowly, deliberately, their ceramite armor painted in midnight blue and lightning bolts, and every step echoes like a funeral bell. They want you to hear them. They want you to be afraid. And you are. You are so afraid that you cannot move, cannot breathe, can only watch as they reach the trench and begin to descend. The soldier with the augmetic snaps out of his paralysis first. He raises his lost rifle and fires, a lost bolt that strikes one of the Night Lords square in the chest and does nothing. Not even a scorch mark. The Night Lord stops. Tilts his head. And then he laughs. It is not a human sound. It is the sound a predator makes when it finds prey that thinks it can fight back. He raises his bolter, and the soldier disintegrates, blown apart by a mass reactive round that detonates inside his chest cavity, and you are showered in blood and bone and fragments of the augmetic that clink off your helmet like rain. You run. You do not decide to run. Your body decides for you, and suddenly you are scrambling out of the trench, your lost rifle forgotten, your only thought to put distance between yourself and the laughter that follows you. You run through the ruins of what was once a defensive emplacement, past the wreckage of a Lehman Russ tank that is still burning, past bodies so charred you cannot tell if they were human or something else. You run until your lungs are on fire, until your legs give out, and you collapse behind a pile of rubble that might have been a wall once. You press your face into the dirt and you sob, and you hate yourself for it, but you cannot stop. You are 18 years old. You have been a soldier for 4 months. And you have just learned that courage is a lie they tell you, so you will stand still while you die. You do not know how long you lie there. Time has no meaning. But eventually, the sound of your own breathing becomes louder than the war, and you realize that you are not dead. Not yet. You sit up, slowly, and you look around. The rubble pile is part of a larger ruin, something that might have been a mini storm chapel before the siege. The Imperial Aquila is still visible on one wall, half melted, the two-headed eagle twisted into something that looks more like a scream. You crawl toward it, because you need something, anything, to hold on to. You press your hand against the stone, and it is warm. Too warm. And then you hear the voice. Not out loud. Inside your head. A whisper that tastes like copper and incense. Do you still believe? You jerk your hand back. There is nothing there. No one. Just the ruin and the fire and the distant sound of dying. But the question lingers. Do you still believe? You do not know. You do not know if you ever did. The vox beat in your ear, the one you thought was dead, suddenly crackles to life. A voice, human, strained, but human, any survivors, Tertius Wall, Rally Point is Cathedral of the Savior Emperor, coordinates uploading now. Move fast. We cannot hold long. The coordinates flash across your helmet's display, and you realize with a sick lurch that the cathedral is 2 kilometers away, through enemy-held territory, through a zone marked red on every tactical map you have ever seen. It is a death sentence. But staying here is also a death sentence. At least if you move, you die trying. You pick up a lost rifle, not yours, you lost yours somewhere, and you check the charge pack. 3/4 full. Enough. Enough for what? You do not ask. You take a breath, the air thick with ash and the smell of burning flesh, and you start walking. Not running. Walking. Because running draws attention, and you have learned that much, at least. You walk through the hell of Terra's last days, and you do not look back. You are not alone on the road to the Cathedral of the Savior Emperor. There are others, scattered survivors, individuals and small groups moving like ghosts through the smoke. No one speaks. Speaking would require acknowledging what you are doing, and that would make it real. You pass a Medikai station, or what is left of it. The tents are collapsed, burning, and the bodies inside are still strapped to the gurneys, their mouths open in screams that no one heard. You see a hospitaller, one of the orders to Halicus, sitting against a wall with her bolt pistol in her lap and a hole in her head. Self-inflicted. The wall behind her is covered in script, written in blood, the same phrase repeated hundreds of times. He does not answer. He does not answer. He does not answer. You do not stop to read more. You keep walking. A group of soldiers, maybe a dozen, are huddled in the shadow of a collapsed Aquila lander, and as you approach, one of them raises a lost rifle, pointing at you. Identify yourself, he barks, his voice cracking. You raise your hand slowly. Private Mel Arcade, 804th Terran Defense Cohort. I'm heading to the cathedral. Rally point. The soldier stares at you for a long moment, then lowers his weapon. Good luck. We're staying here. Safer. You look at their position. It is not safer. It is a tomb waiting to be sealed. But you do not argue. You just nod and keep moving. Behind you, you hear one of them laugh, a high, broken sound, and then the laughter turns into sobbing. You do not look back. The streets of Terra are unrecognizable. You were born here, in the hive cities that cling to the palace like barnacles, but the siege has reshaped everything. Buildings you remember, landmarks you used as waypoints, are gone, replaced by craters or worse, by structures that seem to have grown from the rubble, organic and wrong. You see one, a tower of bone and wire, pulsing with a faint, sickly light, and you realize with horror that it is breathing. You give it a wide berth. The coordinates lead you through a district that was once a manufacturing sector, producing munitions and armor for the Imperial war machine. Now it is a graveyard of machines. Surveyors wander aimlessly, their control codes corrupted, performing tasks that no longer exist. One of them is trying to weld a wall that is not there, sparks flying into the empty air. Another is dragging a pallet of shells, round and round in a circle, its Vox grill repeating the same phrase. Efficiency is devotion. Efficiency is devotion. Efficiency is devotion. You wonder if it knows the war is lost. You wonder if it cares. You are halfway to the cathedral when you see them. Orcs. Not the War Master's forces, not chaos, but orcs, a warband that has descended onto Terra in the confusion, scavenging and fighting because that is all they know. They are tearing apart a downed Thunderhawk, ripping out the engines with their bare hands, hooting and bellowing in their guttural tongue. You freeze. You are not equipped to fight orcs. No one is, not alone. You begin to back away, slowly, 1 step, 2 steps, and then your boot crunches on a piece of debris, and the sound cuts through the chaos like a gunshot. One of the orcs, a massive brute with a jaw like a bear trap, turns and sees you. For a second, neither of you moves. Then it grins, its tusks yellow and cracked, and it roars. The sound is like a physical blow, and you run. You do not remember running. You remember the orc's footfalls behind you, heavy enough to shake the ground, remember the sound of its choppa, a massive cleaver of scrap metal and bloodlust, scraping against the stone as it drags it along. You remember turning a corner and nearly running straight into a chasm, a crack in the earth that drops into darkness, the result of some titan's death throw. You skid to a stop, inches from the edge, and the orc crashes around the corner behind you. It does not stop. It cannot stop. It charges, and you drop, and it sails over you, over the edge, and down into the chasm. You hear it roaring all the way down, a sound that fades slowly, and then cuts off. You lie on your back, staring at the sky, and you laugh. You laugh until you are crying, and then you are just crying, and then you are silent. You reach the Cathedral of the Savior Emperor 2 hours later, and it is not what you expected. You imagine something intact, a fortress of faith standing defiant. Instead, it is a ruin. The spires are shattered, the walls breached in a dozen places, and the great bronze doors hang off their hinges, twisted by some unimaginable force. But there are people here. Soldiers, like you, and civilians, refugees who somehow survived this long. They are gathered in the nave, under a ceiling that is open to the sky, and at the center, standing on a broken altar, is a commissar. She is tall, grim, her coat scorched and torn, and when she speaks, her voice carries the weight of authority that has not yet been ground into dust. You are here because you refuse to die alone, she says. That is good. That is the first step. But make no mistake. This is not rescue. This is not safety. This is a delay. We hold this cathedral for as long as we can, and then we fall back, and we hold the next position, and the next, until there are no positions left. And then we die. But we die standing. We die making the War Master pay for every meter of Terra in blood. Do you understand? The crowd murmurs, not in agreement, but in resignation. You understand. You all understand. This is not about hope. This is about defiance. And maybe, in the end, that is all there is. The cathedral becomes home. Not in the sense of warmth or safety, but in the sense of familiarity. You learn the rhythms of its defense, the patterns of attack and counterattack, the places where the walls are weakest and the positions where you are most likely to survive. The commissar, her name is Valeria Crost, and she rules the cathedral with an iron fist. She executes deserters without hesitation, shoots men who spread panic, and once, you see her pistol whip a soldier who suggested surrendering. She is not cruel. She is necessary. Because without her, the cathedral would fall into chaos, and chaos is what the enemy wants. You learn this quickly. The traitors do not just want to kill you. They want to break you. They want you to give up, to turn on each other, to embrace the despair that they worship. And so Commissar Cross holds the line, not just against the enemy, but against the darkness inside every soldier's heart. You are assigned to the Eastern Wall, a section that overlooks a plaza that was once a place of pilgrimage. Now it is a killing field. The traitors send wave after wave of cultists across it, human shields meant to exhaust your ammunition, to dull your reflexes. You fire your lost rifle until the barrel is hot enough to burn your hands through your gloves, and still they come. They wear rags and makeshift armor, and they scream prayers to the dark gods, their voices overlapping into a noise that is almost hypnotic. You try not to listen. Listening is dangerous. Some of the soldiers on the wall have started to hear words in the screaming, promises and threats and offers, and those soldiers do not last long. They either throw themselves off the wall or turn their weapons on their comrades. Commissar Cross shoots them all the same. The cultists are not the worst. The worst are the traitor guard, the men and women who were once like you, who wore the same uniform, who swore the same oaths, and who broke. They know your tactics because they were your tactics. They know where to hit, where to press, where the weaknesses are. And they enjoy it. You see it in their faces, the few times you get close enough to see. They are smiling. Not with joy, but with relief. Relief that they no longer have to pretend to be human. You wonder if that is what waits for you, at the end. If survival is just another word for surrender. You push the thought away. Thinking like that is how it starts. On the third day, the Astartes come. Not the Night Lords this time, but the Iron Warriors, and they are methodical. They do not charge. They dig. You watch from the wall as they construct siege lines, trenches and bunkers and artillery emplacements, all within a few hundred meters of the cathedral. They work with the precision of a manufacturing assembly line, and you realize that to them, this is just another problem to solve. They will calculate the exact amount of firepower needed to reduce the cathedral to rubble, and then they will apply it, and you will die not because they hate you, but because you are in the way. There is something more terrifying about that than the Night Lord's sadism. The Night Lords want to hurt you. The Iron Warriors do not care enough to want anything. The bombardment begins at dawn. Not the random, sporadic shelling you have grown used to, but a systematic, targeted barrage. The Iron Warriors have calculated the cathedral's weak points, and they strike them with surgical precision. The western wall collapses first, burying 24 soldiers under tons of stone. Then the northern spire, which crashes down into the nave, scattering the refugees and igniting fires that take hours to contain. Commissar Cross orders everyone into the crypts, the underground levels of the cathedral, and you descend into darkness lit only by flickering lumen strips. The air is thick with incense and rot, and you realize that the crypts are already full. Full of bodies. The dead from the siege, stacked like cordwood, because there is no time to burn them, no space to bury them. You find a corner and sit, your back against the cold stone, and you listen to the impacts above, each one a drumbeat counting down to the end. You meet a Scitarii down here, in the crypts. She is alone, separated from her cohort, her red robes torn and stained with oil and blood. Her augmentics click and whir softly, and when she sees you, she tilts her head, her optics focusing and refocusing. You are afraid, she says, her voice synthesized, stripped of emotion. Why? You do not know how to answer that. Because the answer is everything. You are afraid of dying, of pain, of what comes after, of the fact that maybe nothing comes after. You are afraid that the Emperor is dead, that the Imperium is falling, that everything you were taught is a lie. You are afraid that the Scitarii is right, and you are just flesh, weak and temporary, and that there is no meaning to any of this. But you do not say any of that. You just say, aren't you? She is silent for a long moment. Then she says, I was. Once. Before I was remade. Now I am not afraid. I am uncertain. The omniscience will is unclear. The motive force is disrupted. I do not understand, and not understanding is worse than fear. She turns away, and you are left with the realization that even the machines are breaking. The bombardment stops after 6 hours. The silence is worse than the noise. You climb back up from the crypts, and the cathedral is transformed. Half the roof is gone. The walls are cracked and leaning. The altar is buried under rubble. But you are alive. Most of you are alive. Commissar Crost is already organizing the survivors, assigning new positions, preparing for the assault that will inevitably follow. You take your place on what remains of the eastern wall, and you wait. You do not have to wait long. The Iron Warriors come at dusk, walking through the smoke and the fire, their armor painted in iron and gold, their weapons humming with deadly intent. They do not rush. They do not need to. They are inevitable. You fire. Everyone fires. Lost bolts and stubber rounds and even a few crock grenades, everything you have, and it is not enough. The Iron Warriors' armor is too thick, their advance too disciplined. They reach the wall, and they begin to climb, and you know this is the end. You draw your knife, a pathetic little blade that will not even scratch their ceramite, but it is all you have. You are ready to die. And then the sky splits open. Not metaphorically. Literally. The clouds tear apart, and through the gap, you see a ship. An Imperial ship, a strike cruiser, its prow emblazoned with the Aquila, and it is firing. Land strikes hammer into the Iron Warriors' siege lines, vaporizing artillery and infantry alike. The Astartes on the wall hesitate, just for a second, and in that second, Commissar Cross screams, "Now! Push them back! For the Emperor!" And you do. You all do. You throw yourselves at the Iron Warriors with a desperation that is almost euphoric, and somehow, impossibly, you drive them off. They retreat, pulling back to their lines, and you collapse on the wall, laughing and crying and not sure which is which. The strike cruiser does not land. It cannot. The bombardment it unleashed was a death sentence. You watch as enemy fire converges on it, watch as its void shields flare and fail, watch as it breaks apart, its hull splitting open and spilling debris and bodies into the burning sky. It crashes somewhere beyond the horizon, a pillar of fire marking its grave. It died to save you. To buy you hours, maybe a day. And you do not even know its name. You think that is the most tragic thing you have ever witnessed. But you are wrong. The most tragic thing is that you are already forgetting. Forgetting the faces of the soldiers who died yesterday. Forgetting the names of the people you swore to protect. Forgetting who you were before the siege. You are becoming something else, something stripped down to the barest essentials, hunger, fear, and the will to survive one more minute. You are becoming a ghost. And Terra is full of ghosts now. That night, there is no sleep. Sleep is a luxury no one can afford. The Iron Warriors are regrouping, reinforcing, and everyone knows the next assault will be the last. Commissar Cross gathers the officers, what few remain, and you are surprised when she looks at you and says, "You too, Kate." Tum. You follow her into what was once the cathedral's sacristy, now a makeshift command center lit by a single dying lumen globe. There are 5 others, a Scutaria Alpha, the same one you met in the crypts, a grizzled sergeant from the Astra Militarum whose face is more scar than skin, a tech priest whose augmetics are sparking and failing, a naval arms man, somehow still alive, his uniform shredded, and a woman in the robes of the Adeptus Sororitas, though her power armor is gone, stripped away, leaving her looking almost fragile. Cross spreads a map on the table, a hand-drawn sketch of the cathedral and the surrounding area, and she taps it with one gloved finger. We cannot hold here. We all know this. But if we retreat, the line collapses. So we do not retreat. We break through. The sergeant barks a laugh. Break through to where? In case you haven't noticed, Commissar, Terra is overrun. There is no safe ground left. Cross' expression does not change. No. But there are places more defensible. The Eternity Wall spaceport is 15 kilometers south. If we can reach it, we can link up with the main defense force, reinforce the inner palace lines. It is suicide to try. But staying here is also suicide, and at least if we move, we die with purpose. The Sororita speaks, her voice soft but steady. What about the civilians? The refugees? We have hundreds here. Cross meets her eyes. They come with us. All of them. We leave no one behind. Not to the traitors. Not to what they will do. The room is silent. You realize she is asking you all to agree to a death march. To take everyone, soldiers and civilians alike, through 15 kilometers of enemy-held hell, with no support, no air cover, no hope of reinforcement. It is insane. And yet, everyone nods. Because insanity is all that is left. Preparations begin immediately. The civilians are gathered, told to carry what they can and nothing more. The soldiers check their weapons, redistribute ammunition, prepare for a running fight. The Skitarii Alpha approaches you while you are loading your last rifle's charge packs. Private Cade, she says, and you are surprised she remembers your name. Do you have faith in the Emperor? You look at her expressionless faceplate, and you answer honestly. I don't know. She nods, a very human gesture from a very inhuman being. That is acceptable. Faith is not required for function. Only action. She hands you something, a small data slate, its screen cracked but still glowing. If I fall, take this to the Eternity Wall. The Mechanicus needs to know what happened here. Not the deaths. The other thing. You take the data slate. What other thing? She does not answer. She just walks away, her mechadendrites swaying behind her like serpents. The breakout begins at midnight. Commissar Cross leads, flanked by the Sororitas and the Sergeant, and the rest of you follow, a column of several hundred desperate souls moving through the ruins. The Iron Warriors do not notice at first. You slip through gaps in their siege lines, through trenches they have not yet fortified, and for a brief, glorious moment, you think you might actually make it. Then the flares go up. Bright, searing magnesium light that turns night into day, and suddenly the Iron Warriors are everywhere. They do not chase you. They box you in. Squads moving with mechanical efficiency to cut off escape routes, to follow you into kill zones. The sergeant screams orders, and the soldiers form a rear guard, laying down fire to cover the civilians. You are part of that rear guard. You fire until your last rifle's power pack dies, then reload, then fire again. The Iron Warriors advance through it all, implacable, and you realize they are not trying to stop you. They are hurting you. Driving you towards something. You break into an open plaza, and you see it. A chaos monument. That is the only word for it. A structure of black iron and screaming stone, covered in runes that hurt to look at, and at its base, a ritual is taking place. You see robed figures, sorcerers, and around them, a circle of captives, prisoners from the siege, on their knees. The sorcerers are chanting, and the captives are screaming, and the air is splitting open. A warp rift. Small, unstable, but growing. You understand immediately. The Iron Warriors were not trying to kill you. They were delivering you. Commissar Cross sees it too. She turns, her face pale, and she shouts, "Run! Everyone, run!" But it is too late. The rift tears open fully, and demons pour through. You have never seen demons before. Not in the flesh. And your mind rebels against what your eyes are showing it. They are not creatures. They are concepts made manifest, nightmares wearing skin that shifts and writhes. One of them, a thing of brass and flame, fixes its gaze on you, and you feel its attention like a weight crushing your chest. You cannot move. Cannot breathe. And then the Skitarii Alpha is there, stepping between you and the demon, her arc rifle crackling with electricity. "Go," she says, not looking at you. "Deliver the data slate. Go." She fires, and the demon roars, and you run. You run as the world comes apart behind you, as the demons and the soldiers and the civilians collide in a maelstrom of blood and madness. You run until your legs give out, until you collapse in an alley, clutching the data slate, and you hear nothing but your own heartbeat and the distant, endless screaming. You do not know how long you hide there. Eventually, the screaming stops. You emerge, and the plaza is empty. No bodies. No blood. Just scorch marks on the ground, arranged in patterns that make your eyes water. The cathedral is gone, you realize. You cannot see it anymore. Either it fell, or you have run too far. You are alone. You check the data slate. It is still functional. And on its screen, there is a single line of text, written in high Gothic. The Emperor is silent. The throne weeps. Something is breaking. You do not understand. But you will carry it. Because the Skitaria Alpha asked you to. And maybe, in the end, that is the only meaning there is. The promises we make to the people who save us. You are 5 kilometers from the Eternity Wall spaceport when the sky changes. Not the fire and smoke you have grown used to, but something deeper. The light shifts, taking on a sickly, golden hue, and for a moment, just a moment, you feel something vast turn its attention toward Terra. It is not the Emperor. You know that instinctively, the same way you know the difference between sunlight and a lascan's beam. This is something else. Something older. And then it is gone, and the sky is just fire again, and you are left shaking and nauseous, bile rising in your throat. You vomit, and the liquid is black. You do not know why. You do not want to know why. The streets are a labyrinth of wreckage. You navigate by memory and instinct, avoiding patrols, both traitor and orc, and once, something that is neither. A creature that walks on too many legs, its body translucent, filled with stars. It does not see you. Or maybe it does, and it simply does not care. You press yourself into a doorway and you do not breathe until it is gone. You are beyond fear now. Fear is an emotion, and emotions require energy, and you have none left. You are moving because stopping means dying, and some base, animal part of you refuses to stop. You find survivors. Not soldiers. Civilians. A family huddled in the basement of a collapsed hat block, a father, mother, and 2 children. They stare at you with hollow eyes, and the father holds a piece of rebar like a weapon. Stay back, he croaks. We don't have anything. Please. You raise your hands, slowly. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm heading to Eternity Wall. It's defended. Safer. You can come with me. The mother shakes her head. Safer? There is no safer. We tried to run once. We saw what happens to people who run. You do not argue. You just turn and leave. But as you walk away, you hear the father call out, "Wait." You stop. He approaches, the rebar still in his hand, but lowered now. If you get there, if it's real, send someone back. Please. My children. They're hungry. You nod. You know you will not send anyone back. You know there is no one to send. But you nod anyway, because that is what he needs. The Eternity Wall spaceport is a fortress. You see it from 2 kilometers away, a massive structure of adamantium and faith, bristling with defense turrets and void shield generators. And around it, a perimeter held by the Adeptus Custodes. You see them, golden giants standing sentinel, and for the first time in days, you feel something like hope. The Custodes do not fail. The Custodes do not break. If they are here, then maybe, just maybe, Terra can still be saved. You approach the perimeter, moving carefully, hands raised, and a custodian steps forward. He does not speak. He simply looks at you, and you feel the weight of that gaze, the judgment in it. You hold up the data slate. From the Cathedral of the Savior Emperor. Mechanicus Intelligence. I was told to deliver it. The custodian takes the data slate, his gauntlet hand dwarfing it, and he nods once. You will come inside. You will be debriefed. And then, impossibly, he adds, "You have done well, soldier." Inside the spaceport, it is a different world. There is order. There is discipline. There are medics and supply lines and soldiers who do not look like ghosts. You were taken to a medici bay, treated for wounds you did not realize you had, given water and rations that taste like dust but are the best thing you have ever eaten. And then you were brought to a debriefing chamber, a cold, sterile room with a table and 2 chairs. The man waiting for you is not Custodes. He is Inquisition. You know this because of the rosette on his chest, the symbol of authority that transcends rank, that makes even generals kneel. He gestures to the chair. Sit. You sit. He opens the data slate, reads it in silence, and his expression does not change. But his hands tighten, just slightly, around the device. "Do you know what this says?" he asks. You shake your head. "I was just told to deliver it." He leans back, studying you. The Mechanicus has been monitoring the Golden Throne, the Emperor's life support. For weeks, they have detected anomalies. Fluctuations in power, in psychic resonance. And now, according to this, the fluctuations are accelerating. The throne is failing. The room seems to tilt. You grip the edge of the table. Failing? What does that mean? The Inquisitor's expression is grim. It means the Emperor is dying. Truly dying. Not just wounded, not just holding on. Dying. And when he dies, the Astronomicon will go dark, the webway gate beneath the palace will tear open, and Terra will be consumed by demons. The siege, all of this, it is a distraction. The War Master is not trying to conquer Terra. He is trying to stall us. To keep us fighting out here while the Emperor burns out inside. You feel cold. Colder than you have ever felt. Then what do we do? The Inquisitor stands. We hold. We fight. We pray that Rogaldorn and the Primarchs can force the War Master's hand before it is too late. That is all we can do. You are dismissed, assigned to a unit holding the spaceport's northern gate, and you go through the motions of being a soldier again. But you cannot stop thinking about what the Inquisitor said. The Emperor is dying. You have built your entire existence around the idea that he is eternal, that he watches, that he protects. And now you are being told it is a lie. Not a malicious lie. A hopeful one. The kind of lie you tell a child so they can sleep at night. But the night is over, and the monsters are real, and no one is coming to save you. You stand on the wall, Lost rifle in hand, and you stare out at the burning city, and you wonder if this is what the end of the world looks like. Not a sudden catastrophe, but a slow, grinding collapse, where every day is worse than the last until there are no days left. The assault on the spaceport begins 3 days later. Not the War Master's forces. The Necrons. They rise from beneath the earth, ancient machines awakening, and they do not care about the siege, about the Imperium or chaos. They see Terra as theirs, a world stolen by upstart apes, and they have come to reclaim it. The Custodes meet them in battle, and it is a clash of titans, golden demigods against deathless machines, and you watch from the wall and understand that you are witnessing something that will be told in legends if anyone survives to tell it. But legends do not help you. Legends do not stop the Necron warrior that phases through the gate, its Gauss rifle disintegrating a soldier standing next to you. You fire, and your lost bolt passes through it like it is smoke. It raises its weapon, and you know you are dead. And then a custodian is there, his guardian spear cutting the Necron in half, and he does not even pause, just moves to the next enemy, and you realize you are crying. Crying because you are alive. Crying because you do not know if you want to be. The battle lasts for hours, and when it is over, the Necrons retreat, phasing back into the earth, and the spaceport is still standing. Barely. The casualties are catastrophic. Entire sections of the wall are gone. But you held. You all held. And that night, sitting in a bunker with the other survivors, someone starts to sing. It is an old Terran hymn, something from before the Age of Strife, and one by one, the others join in. You do not know the words. But you hum along, and the sound fills the bunker, and for a few minutes, You are not soldiers. You are just people holding onto each other in the dark. The Inquisitor finds you again a week later. The siege has not ended. If anything, it has intensified. But there are rumors now, whispers that the War Master is preparing a final assault, that the Primarchs are gathering, that something is going to break one way or the other. The Inquisitor hands you a new assignment, a sealed envelope with orders you are not allowed to read until you reach your destination. You are being transferred, he says, to the Inner Palace, the Sanctum Imperialis itself. You have been chosen for something. Do not ask me what. I do not know. But someone believes you are worth more than dying on this wall. You take the envelope, and you salute, and you walk away, and you realize that you have stopped believing in meaning. There is no grand plan, no divine purpose. There is only survival and chance and the arbitrary decisions of people who hold power. You are a pawn. You have always been a pawn. And pawns do not get to ask why. You never reach the Inner Palace. The orders in the envelope are encrypted, and before you can deliver them, the sky splits open again. Not a warp rift. The War Master's flagship, the Vengeful Spirit, descending through the atmosphere, its guns hammering the palace shields. And across every Vox channel, every frequency, a message, the War Master's voice, cold and certain, Father. It ends now. Come to me. Face me, or I will tear down everything you have built and salt the earth with the ashes. The transmission cuts off, and you stand there, in the shadow of the descending warship, and you understand that the siege is over. One way or another, it ends now. You think about the Emperor, sitting on the golden throne, silent, dying. You think about the millions who have died believing he would save them. And you think about the fact that maybe, just maybe, the War Master is right. Maybe gods and heroes and legends are just stories we tell ourselves to survive the darkness. And maybe the darkness always wins. You look up at the Vengeful Spirit, and you feel nothing. Not fear, not anger, not hope. Just emptiness. And you realize that is the War Master's greatest victory. Not the walls he has broken, not the soldiers he has killed, but the faith he has shattered. The meaning he has stolen. You are alive, but you are hollow. And Terra is full of hollow people now, walking through the ruins, waiting for an end that has already come. The siege of Terra is not over. It will never be over. Not in the way stories are supposed to end, with resolution and closure. It will drag on, day after day, until the War Master and the Emperor meet, until the duel that will decide the fate of the galaxy takes place. But you will not see it. You are not important enough. You are just Private Meliarcade, one soldier among millions, and your story ends not with glory, but with exhaustion. You sit on a pile of rubble, the encrypted orders still in your pocket, and you watch the sky burn. Somewhere, the Custodes are fighting. Somewhere, the Primarchs are preparing. Somewhere, the Emperor is dying. But here, in this moment, you are just tired. So tired. And maybe, you think, that is the real lesson of the siege. That survival is not heroic. It is just exhausting. And when it is over, if you are still alive, you will carry the weight of it forever. The faces you forgot. The promises you broke. The faith you lost. That is the price of witnessing the end of the world. You get to remember.